So hi folks, thank you for joining me today. Today we have a very special guest. This is a person I've met a while back and whom I considered today as a person that I go to learn stuff from. And it's amazing to see what I consider her progression in this career. So I want to start with that. Let's talk a little bit about you. Start with your name.
My favorite subject.
Your favorite subject.
I'm Sami Prentice.
All right.
Yep.
So this is Sami Prentice. So today we're in a special location. This is Triangle Wine Company.
Yes.
And the last time we spoke, you said that you've been here a couple of times. Mm-hmm. And the last time we were out here, what were you doing out here?
I was actually teaching a class on sour beer in the brewing process with the last company I worked at.
Nice. So now today, what are you doing today? What do you do today?
Well, today I drink sour beer, but I am a ScrumMaster at Dude Solutions.
Awesome. So I wanted to talk to you today because I think it's fascinating. To me, it's fascinating to see somebody from coming from a industry totally not related to technology. And correct me if I'm wrong here, right?
Yeah, no, not at all.
Okay, so from there, and then you moved to a Scrum Master.
Correct.
Now let's dig deeper a bit more with that, right? So let's go back further than that. Before that, so let's talk about school and things like that. Just give me some background on what you were doing before joining Dude Solutions as a Scrum Master.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is in hospitality management.
Okay.
And spent many years managing different restaurants. Absolutely loved it. Loved the team environment, having to work together to produce what I say is dinner service or whatever it is. It doesn't take one person. And as a restaurant manager, you are absolutely the one behind the scenes. So almost kind of have that servant leadership aspect there. My last restaurant management position was at a brewery and saw an opportunity for advancement moving into sales. Okay. Which is what led me to teaching sour beer classes.
Interesting.
So one thing that I've always been passionate about in hospitality management is communication. So I always say communication is a human problem. If you have humans, you're going to have communication problems. So especially at a brewery where you're producing and making beers and using different ingredients and different processes, and you have new beers coming out, there was always a communication gap between what was up next, what was new, what was in it, what type of beer it was. And so I've always tried to figure out how to make that communication easier, which is why the sour beer world and teaching about sour beer was a passion of mine. Moving into sales, although I love the company I worked for and everybody I worked with, I quickly realized that I was doing a mediocre job. I am not a salesperson. I love working on everything that I was passionate about, working on teams, working with people. It was completely opposite. I woke up in the morning, I planned my day, I went out and visited with accounts, so there was some face-to-face interaction, but it was very surfaced, like a 5 to 15 minute conversation talking about product, very, very salesperson-esque. And so that's when I started my search for what was next.
So what got you to looking at the technology side? What got you looking into the Scrum Master? Because, Agile isn't new. Agile has been around since 2001. But the industry itself, the more I look at it, the more I find it is still new, right?
Yes.
And a lot of people don't understand what Agile is, what is Scrum Master. What led you to that? How do you get it? Did somebody say, hey, Sami, go take a look at this? What was that like?
That's exactly what happened. So I remember that moment specifically. I was on the way back from a beach trip with family, and obviously there was a lot of conversations about how my career was going and you know, how happy I was. And like I mentioned before, I was mediocre at that job, and I've always wanted to be the best at whatever I'm doing.
Okay.
Not necessarily the best, like the best person doing it, but the best that I can be. And I was unable to do that. And so lots of long conversations. And actually my boyfriend is in the tech industry,
Okay.
as well as both of his parents. And his mom and I are very close. And she has been, you know, product manager for many, many years, and back from the waterfall days and to the agile adoption. And she was the one that first sparked the interest and the conversation of, hey, there's this thing called a ScrumMaster, and I think that you'd be perfect at it.
So from the time that somebody put a seed in your mind and says, hey, this is ScrumMaster, when she say that, what do you do to gain? So most often I get people asking me, well, cool, I heard that ScrumMaster, how do I get a job as a ScrumMaster? So what were the things that you did that led you to the job that you had at Deal Solutions?
So the first thing I always say is it doesn't happen overnight. Like you have to put a lot of effort and work into it. We were in her light blue CRV traveling back, and the first thing I did was Googled on my phone, what is a ScrumMaster? And I just went down a rabbit hole for the next year, and continuing now. And you know, once you learn what a ScrumMaster does, and you're searching Scrum and Lean and XP and the history of everything. And what I always say to people who are potentially interested, who are newbies like I was not too long ago, is start researching it. Look up what a ScrumMaster does. There is a video that I watched pretty early in my journey on Team Treehouse,
okay,
which was Scrum Basics. It's an hour-long video.
Okay.
I always suggest that people watch that, and if they find themselves not putting down their phone or their laptop to find more information, then they have kind of gotten that bug, that passion.
Huh, interesting.
So I always say, like, first research what this world is and see if it's something that you're passionate about.
So you did some research, you find it out. What other things do you do?
So I think I probably did a free month subscription to any of those websites I could, Linda, Treehouse, Pluralsight, you name it, to just to get more information.
So I know that at one point, when I first met you, we had a conversation, and you talked about that, you had been certified, and I knew that based on conversation you're certified, and then I think the first time I met you was in a one of the Agile meetup, right? So what led you to those things? I mean, why take a certification?
So I think it's just like anything else. It's what's next. Like, what do I need to do next to grow? I don't recommend that people go to the certification class right from the start. I think that you need to go in with some context and some understanding before going into the class. So the first thing I did was, again, self-research, books and all that, and then reaching out to the community. We are really lucky here in the Triangle area to have a really strong Agile community. And the first person I reached out to was for the ScrumMaster focus group that was hosted at Deal Solutions. And I sent a message and said, hey, I'm not a ScrumMaster, but would it be okay if I came? I look back and laugh now, asking for permission to come to a meetup, but it was all new for me. And Charles responded back to me. Charles is as Richard knows, is a great person in our community, and said, absolutely, we would love to have you, and even gave me a little bit of information about what the content of the meetup would be. And the irony there is that it was hosted at Deal Solutions, which is where I have my first Scrum Master job. So just for a timeline kind of idea, first heard of the term Scrum Master in August.
Okay.
This was August 2016.
Okay.
Went to that first meetup in September of 2016, and then took my first Scrum training course in December of 2016.
Wow, so it's all month, so you were doing something actively.
Yes.
So you first heard of it, and between the month, you were seeking information now, and the next month you were taking certification.
Yeah, and
that's impressive.
Well, and I was working a full-time job.
Right.
So any extra time I had, any opportunity, I kind of treated it like a second full-time job of just learning and researching and trying to just talk to whoever would talk to me about it so I could understand more. So then, it gets to the point that you've engaged and you've done all of the research and you've learned as much as you can about it and really tried to comprehend, but you can't fully understand unless you get your hands dirty and you practice.
So
essentially.
Did you have to knock on a lot of doors before one opened for you?
Absolutely. It took me, so after I got the certification, I knew I was going to have some difficulty trying to find my first job.
Right.
And, especially not coming from the technical world.
Right.
So I started actively looking in January of 2017.
So when did you find a job?
I had my first day at Dude Solutions August 7th of 2017.
So it took you around 7 months.
Correct. So, but I never gave up. I kept going and engaging with the community and reaching out to people. Again, I can't stress how important that is. And I think the best part about that journey is I created a growth mindset for myself and set up learning habits. And those things are what can make a good Scrum Master great is even when you get the job, it's constantly learning and asking questions and being vulnerable about the fact that you're new and you really want to understand and you might ask silly questions and it's been a really wonderful journey for me.
So for the folks that's out there watching this, are there any advice for people that are similar in the situation where they're looking? Anything, look back, is there anything that you would say, if you were to do X, Y, and Z, it will give you a better chance of getting a door open?
So the first advice I would give is, one thing I didn't say on here is that I did take the ScrumMaster training course twice. So the first one, I didn't research the trainer. I tried to as much as I could on my own, but what I should have done was reach out again to that local community and say, hey, are there any trainers that you would recommend that has a really great training program? So my first training session was pretty brutal. The trainer wasn't engaged at all, was almost annoyed to be there, and we had a lot of breaks.
Wow.
And so
to fill up time, I guess.
Yes, well, because there were phone calls and stuff that the trainer had to get to. So on those breaks, I was finding myself teaching Scrum to the people in this class, and trying to offer up any of the resources I had.
Wow.
And that was an interesting experience. But after that, I was actually connected with Jason Tanner, who's a local trainer, who allowed me to come and audit his class for free, because I had already, I was doing this out of pocket. This was an interest of mine. I didn't have a company that was sending me, and he heard of the experience that I had, and he knew that everybody deserves good training, and so he let me come and audit his class for free. It was night and day. It was an incredible training program. And that's where I met TJ, who is also another connection for my first job, Dude Solutions.
Now, what is next for you? What is your what's your future look like for you?
I absolutely love what I do. So this is the first time where, working at a brewery has this kind of cool status when you tell people oh yeah, I work at this brewery. And they're oh, that's awesome. I would love to just drink beer all day. And I'm well, it's actually not as great as it sounds. And so this is the first time that I tell people what I am and they look at me cross-eyed. but I always get to follow it up with, I love my job, and that's a really amazing thing for me. But what's next? I found that I have really taken interest and passion into organizational agility. It's going to take me a while to be able to get at that level, so I'm just trying to, kind of find that path for myself as well, and doing the same thing that I've always done, which is just depending on the community to point me in the right direction, and talking to other people within the organization. But I'm really interested in kind of like HR and people development, and bringing people into the HR world, and kind of rethinking about how we do our yearly reviews and stuff like that, because
absolutely, that's one of my biggest pain. My biggest sword that I have is performance review.
Well, as Scrum Masters, we're trained to find the impediments, and so all impediments I find keep leading to one or two areas. And so for me, it's slapping Band-Aids on broken bones unless we get to the core of it and kind of retrain the system. Now, there are a lot of people that talk about it in the other way, that is, first, be an expert in Scrum, have really high performing teams, then scale it, then go to business agility. But I do truly believe that those paths can be done simultaneously.
So I think that's, to me right now, I'm kind of in that same boat way. I feel it's chicken and egg.
Yes.
Right. It's either this or that. It almost doesn't really matter. Right. You can start either way.
Yeah.
But both needs to come together as one.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I want to be when I grow up. I guess is a short answer. I want to help build great teams and make teams great and protect teams, but I also want to help build great organizations.
Awesome. That's really awesome. So folks, I think today I really wanted to talk to Sami and kind of highlight what I saw. As I saw a person that had this potentially great growth mentality in her. Her energy, her passion is just through the roof. And that's something that I admire a lot, and I hope this helps you guys out in terms of guys and girls. Sorry, in terms of
remember the women.
Remember the women, right? Figure out if Scrum Master is something that you want to do, and if it is, it's not an easy path to get to, but there is a path, and she found her path. So if you have questions, put it in our comments. Can we put your email address on
Yes,
this?
absolutely. So the last thing I wanted to say is kind of one of the joys that I've had is by sharing my experience and my story. I've had other people send people to me saying, hey, this person is kind of, where you were 2 years ago. Do you mind talking with them? That's one of my favorite things to do. In fact, I think that any Agilist out there, any professional out there has to always remember to pay it back. So I couldn't be here without the coaching and mentorship of other people, and I hope to be able to provide that back.
Awesome.
And going back to, for people who are at the beginning of this journey themselves, there are a couple of things that I say are absolutely vital. One is find a mentor, find a great mentor, or a community of mentors, and they can be anywhere around. Never stop learning. The second you stop learning, you become kind of paralyzed and frozen. Like, you have to learn all the time, no matter where you are in your career, and lean on your community.
Awesome. Well, thank you for spending time with me.
Yes, and Richard is a great mentor, so reach out to him. He'll be happy to help out. Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.